Hey guys, so finally in this video I'm going to talk about EECS 183 at the University of Michigan. And as a disclaimer, this is solely based on my experience during winter 2017. Future semesters as well as individual persons' experience may vary, so this is solely used as a reference. And also hopefully you will find this video helpful in a way, as I will include a few tips and advice and also a brief overview of what the course is like so you know what to expect. And also any questions that I won't mention that I haven't talked about in this video, feel free to mention below. Alright, let's get started. So as a general overview of this course, the class structure is as follows. There's a lecture component and there's a lab section component. The lecture is what you would expect. It's like an auditorium. You go in and the professor will teach you basically the syntax, the language, any rules, etc., etc. The lab sections are there for you to ask the IAs or the instructional aides questions, as well as figure out your group members for any projects that you need to do, and also just have another set of resource, I suppose, outside of class to get your questions answered, and also do lab assignments, which I will mention later on. So the components of the grade, you have 2 exams, you have 10 clicker points, and what it is basically, so throughout the semester you will obviously have more than 10 lectures, but what they have you do is that you can miss however many you want, but if you want 100% for your clicker points, you have to go to at least 10 of those lectures. There are 4 projects, there are 10 lab assignments, and there are 6 online assignments, which are basically on the website Code Lab, which you have to purchase access to. I think it was like $25. But yeah, these are like the assignments. And Zyanti is another thing you have to purchase online. It's an online textbook, and it is there for you to basically read about the syntax and do some practices. I will go into more detail later. And you also have the final project. So Zyanti and Code Lab. Zyanti, like I mentioned before, it's an online textbook. It consists of exercises to familiarize you with a new syntax. Also has challenges at the end of each section. The way that you get 100% for Zyanti is that you complete at least 70% of the reading that is required. So say you have 10 chapters, you can, or 1 chapter with 10 sections. I believe you can just do 7 sections of those, but I've never actually done the 70%, so I'm not really sure of the whole how they calculate that, but just letting you know, you don't have to do everything for online reading in case you don't have time, so that's pretty good. CodeLab is, like I mentioned, is online additional problems. What it is basically you log on, and I think every other week they will have an assignment due. And there are unlimited attempts for both, in that you can do the exercises unlimited amount of times. And both are considered to be busy work, but Zyanti definitely is helpful because it lets you see how the language is used, and sometimes lectures may not be that informative or that clear to some people. But letting you guys know, if you're efficient enough, each chapter for Zyanti takes about a maximum of 1 to 1.5 hours to do from start to finish, including the challenge problems. And I mean this by you can do all of everything, 100% of everything, in about 1 to 1.5 hours for each chapter. And for each problem set for Code Lab, we have a maximum of about 45 minutes to 1 hour, sometimes even less. It depends on each Code Lab assignment. Now let's talk about lab assignments. So there are 10 lab assignments, and labs meet each week. And what labs are is basically you practice in class for the new topics taught during class, during lecture. IAs will also do reviews. You can also ask them questions about the lab assignment, projects, exams, etc. But here's my thought on the lab sections. So in my opinion, it is unnecessary to go to lab sections. I only went on the first day to get a feel of what it is, because lab section was actually pretty new for winter 2017. In fall 2016 and before that, they were all discussion sections, but in winter 2017 it turned into lab. But either way, I found it to be unnecessary and quite useless and a waste of time. because all lab assignments you can do by yourself, and usually takes less than an hour. And there are also a lot of other options for you to seek help or get your questions answered. For example, office hours and Piazza, both of which office hours you can show up, ask one question or however many questions you need, and you can leave when you're done. Whereas in lab sections, you have to wait for everyone, or just you can't just leave in the middle of lab section sometimes, because that just seems a little bit weird and also rude. Piazza is like an online forum for those of you who don't know. But again, you can just post your question online. People, students, classmates, and professors and IAs will all be able to see your question, answer it, and so you will get a great feedback as well. And you don't have to sit in lab section or sit in the classroom for 1 hour, 1.5 hour. So I would say that use your lab class time. Go for the first day, see if you like it. But I would say if you find it useless, don't feel obligated to go back. You can use it for other stuff, like actually doing a lab assignment, getting a project done, etc., etc., whatever you want to do. Now, let's talk about exams. So exams consist of free response and multiple choice. For exam 1, I got 194 out of 220, and exam 2, I got 214 out of 220, both of which, as you can see, are pretty good grades. And so it also shows that this class isn't really that difficult if you actually put your mind to it. They allow one note card, so a few tips on how to succeed on these exams would be definitely use the note cards. Write the syntax, or anything that you're unfamiliar with or you feel like that will escape your mind during the exam. Also do at least 3 practice exams. Also don't get too stressed out, because getting stressed out will more than likely cause you to fail the exam than if you were more calm and more focused. And some of the things that other people have done, I've only looked at just the slides to see if there's any syntax that I'm unfamiliar with, but that happened rarely. All I did was literally just take practice exams. But some of my friends and classmates have looked at the slides, rewatched the lecture videos, redid or at least looked at the projects, lab assignments, and basically anything that is given to them, and they think that will be helpful for their exam preparation, then they will do. So anything that will work for you, you can try it out and then just settle with one. And just as a side note, the free response are pretty easy, but I highly recommend making an outline right after you read a question, so that you won't forget any variables, functions, etc. And so you just keep track of what you have and what you don't have. Multiple choice are also pretty easy, but they can be tricky. Sometimes they might be missing a semicolon or something that's very teeny tiny. You have to be very detail oriented. So always think everything through, read everything carefully, and always, again, double check everything. And usually I had about 40 minutes to 50 minutes for each exam left for me to be able to look over everything. So those are my tips for exams. Now for projects, the first one, difficulty of about 3, 1 being the easiest, 1 to 10, scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the easiest. It was a difficulty of 3. It was about cupcakes and recipes for cupcakes. Basically what you do is you create a program where you input number of people you need to serve, say 12 people, and it tells you how many batches you need to make and how much of ingredients you need to make for that 1 batch or 2 batches, etc., and the total cost of each ingredient, or at least of the entire recipe. And it took me about 3 to 4 hours from start to finish, including the style. So it was a very easy first project, and very good. It was pretty good to ease people into at least first timers into coding. And the second project is difficulty about 4, maybe even 3.5. It was about birthdays. So what you do is basically you input your birthday or birth date, and you can choose to have the program to tell you 3 things. So determine the day of birth. So for example, if you choose that option and you input your birthday to be Monday, or to be August 21st, 2017, the program will tell you that you were born on a Monday. You can also ask the program to print the next 10 leap years, determine birthdays for the next 10 years. So this is basically writing a program that is related to birthdays. It took me about 6 to 8 hours from start to finish, including style. So for project 3, it was difficulty of 7. so there's an online game called OHI. You can Google it if you want. So what we had to do is play the game online, obviously, know what the rules are, get familiar with the rules, and we just had to code basically a copy of that game. But obviously there's like no graphics involved, but there's still, you have to make sure that the different cases are accounted for. And so this project took about 4 to 5 hours a day for a week. And most of it was testing because there's a lot of different cases and you don't want any bugs to appear in order to get full points. So for project 4, it was 5, difficulty at 5. It was pixel and drawing. So what you had to do was create a program that when you input coordinates and color, you can draw a rectangle, a circle, a triangle, a square, or square is rectangle, but you get the point. You can also draw a line. So it's basically used to draw in pixels. And it took about 3 days, no more than 36 hours. And what it is, it also involves a lot of testing because of different test cases in order to pass it 50-50, or 50 out of 50 points. That is 100%. And for extra credit, they actually have you draw an original picture, your own idea, and you can submit it. And those who have, as long as you don't copy, say, the Michigan logo like entirely, then you still get extra credit. So that is pretty nice. So some tips for the projects is definitely start early. Definitely go to office hours, because when you start early, you can go to office hours early because you know where your questions are. Whereas I've noticed a trend where, say the project is due on a Wednesday, or let's say Friday, there will be 3 times more people and a lot more crowded on Wednesdays than Thursdays, because everyone goes on those days because they procrastinate, right? So if you want to get help, because when there's a lot of people, you won't necessarily get the help you need. You definitely start early. Also, it gives you peace of mind. So yeah, start early, and go to office hours if you have questions. Also, Piazza again is pretty useful. Also, write out and plan your program. So especially for functions, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know what the function RMEs are, and the different variables and how you can put it all together. So I always use the whiteboard. So the ugly and Duderstat, they all have whiteboards. So I definitely recommend using those. Also test while coding. Obviously, a lot of people will tell you that it's not completely necessary. I would agree it's not completely necessary. Sometimes I would be lazy and just test after everything's finished. But sometimes, especially during the final project, you will have to test while coding, while implementing the functions, or else you will not get anywhere. Last thing is that partners aren't necessary, but if you have one or you want one, definitely choose a good one so you won't have to carry everything. And for the final projects, there are several options. There's the Creative AI, which is done with Python. There's iOS, which is written in Swift. And then there's C++ programs or projects done, so they're called Arduino and Connect 4. And my group did Arduino, and we were the grand prize winner for our showcase session. And but uniform across all teams is that all teams have to complete the core, and for Arduino it was specifically Space Invaders. And then the reach is basically we all have to be creative, either expand on, say, the core, or be completely creative and go out and make a new game. And that's what we did. We made a copy of DDR, and we also found a way to incorporate music into Arduino, which was a pretty big feat, and I think that is what got us the grand prize. But I'm thinking of doing a future video on our project specifically, and hopefully that will help a few more students in the future. So that's all I have for you today, and hopefully you found something helpful in this video. And if you like this channel, please subscribe, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.